Thank you, Patrick. Now, as we mentioned earlier, we're looking at the Entrepreneur's Survival Guide, and I've got with me in studio Wambui Gaitha, who's a financial professional, as well as the founder and CEO of the Regal Group, Regal Africa Financial Services, which offers financial, investment and strategic advisory services to individuals and businesses across East Africa. Wambui has worked across continents in Syngenta and China, and that's in Asia, of course, as well as Bank of America. She holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Finance, Real Estate and Law, and also a minor in International Business from California State University, and MBA in Finance from Holt International Business School. Wambui, thank you so much for making time to be on the Business Center. And I remember when we first spoke and I said we're looking stories about moving from the side hustle to the main hustle, and you said, must we call it a hustle?
Yes.
Explain.
Yes. Well, I want to start off and thank you, Terry-Ann, for having me on the show. But yes, the reason I was hesitant about using the word hustle, because a hustler has this negative connotation to it, right? So when people think about a hustle, they say, you're going to do anything for money. But when you're in business, you have to be very careful about what you're doing to make money. So when I talk about coming from a side hustle to a main business, I'm talking about someone who's a go-getter, someone who is willing to do what it takes to be successful, someone who is willing to do whatever it takes to be wealthy. Now that means if you are a go-getter, then now you have the recipe or the temperament to actually have a successful business. So it's coming out from the mentality of a side hustle to main business and being successful at it. All
right, fantastic. And I'm really looking forward to the Hustler's Handbook. But I'd like to share some of the comments coming in through our viewers. Nyambura Ndungu on Twitter, you say your side hustle is chicken farming. She's got 700 birds and wants to have at least 5,000 birds by the end of 2017. Dylan Nyariki, you say you're a student and you're also practicing interior design as a side hustle. Rita Nairuti, you say my talent is knitting and I've turned it into my side hustle, but I'm still doing my full-time job as it gives me the capital. Keep your comments coming. Remember, you need your pen and your paper on hand, and now we're going into the Hustler's Handbook. And number one, understand your motivation for business ownership. You call it the why. Tell us about that.
Yes. So it's very critical when you're moving from doing something just for money, right, as an extra income, to actually having a legitimate business. Why is very critical. Why are you doing this? Are you doing this to make more money? Are you doing this because it's your passion? Are you doing this because it's your purpose in life to do? So you have to be very careful about why you're choosing to make this transition, because it's not an easy transition. I have done that transition from corporate to my own business right now with Regal Africa, and it's not easy. So if from the very beginning you don't understand why you're doing it, it's going to be very difficult. So you have...
Let's use you as an example. Tell us a little bit about your story and how you transitioned from what I believe is a high-paying job to start your own business.
Okay, so my story is this. Just like everybody, when you're young, you're told to go to school, you're told to go get a good job, and then live this life of making sure that you work very hard until you retire, and then you retire and you just go, I guess, to shags or something like that. So for me, I did exactly that. So I went, I had my education that you just mentioned. I went in, I worked for one of the largest banks in this global world. I worked for Bank of America. But at the end of it, I kept saying, whenever I was in these organizations, I was very, how do I say, I'm a go-getter. So when I see a problem, I want to fix it, right? And sometimes when you're in an organization, you are not able to fix everything. So it was somebody else's idea. It was somebody else's business model, and I wanted more. So I did that. So I actually went, I did what I needed to do, went to school, I worked, I learned the ropes of the industry in financial services, and it reached a point where I thought, I have something extra that I can bring to the table. I think in Kenya we do have a place to actually have innovative financial services. And so with all the experience that I had in corporate, I decided to venture out on my own and start Regal Africa.
So what do you tell people who come to you for advice on what to start? So maybe they're interested in having a side hustle, perhaps because you know, around the Kenyan space now a side hustle is a thing to have. So what do you tell them?
Okay, I always tell them you have to be very passionate about what you do. Just like most people, when I was actually working in corporate, I had my side hustle.
What was your side hustle at the time?
very many things. I love business and I love making money. So, I mean, I have done bookkeeping. My main actual side hustle was I actually had a clothing line, which, because I love fashion and clothes, so I started a clothing line. I was selling jewelry. I was doing African home decor, exporting them from Kenya to the US. So I was doing this because I wanted to make money and I also wanted to help the community. So that was sort of was one of the main side hustles that I had. But it reached a point when I realized, if I'm going to leave corporate, what do I want to really do? And when that question came in, and I actually thought to myself, why am I doing this? I wanted to be in an industry that I absolutely love, something I'm very passionate about, which is wealth creation for all and Africa development. And so I decided to move from a side hustle to a main hustle in the industry that I love, which is financial services.
All right, number 2, market research for scalability of the venture. And of course, when we hear about market research as, you know, side hustlers, it seems like such a big word. Is this something you advise everyone who's starting a side hustle to go through?
Yes. You cannot be successful in business unless you know the market. So you have to do market research. In fact, when you're doing your side hustle, you're actually offering that product or service that you want to eventually become your main business. So you're already doing market research. You're actually understanding and getting feedback from your customers. What is it that they're looking for? Because as a business person, you're actually providing a solution, a product and service that people actually need and are willing to pay for it. So that initially is the market research. But you also have to understand that you have to look at what other people have done. What made them successful? What did not work for them? And that is the kind of research that you need to do, because something might work part-time, but when you try to scale it, it's not scalable. So why would you leave your job for something that is not scalable? Yeah.
Number 3, on the Hustler's Handbook, develop a personal plan. Tell us a little bit more about this. And I like this particular point where you say, know where your living expenses will come from during the first year and save at least 6 to 12 months of your monthly expenses and anticipated business expenses.
Yes. Having a personal plan, having a strategy is critical for you to be successful. You can't just wake up one day and decide you're going to call your employer and say, I'm not working anymore, and start a business. That doesn't work. It's not successful. It's not professional. So for me, I do usually advise people, if you want to actually have a main business, you need to actually have a plan in place. You need to have a timeline and say, okay, I want to be out of corporate. I want to start my own business and do it full-time in a year, 2 years, 3 years. Once you have that timeline, then you can actually know what you need to do before the side hustle becomes your main hustle. So in this space, what you're trying to do is to say, okay, I will need money for me to start this business. Having a business is very expensive. It's not predictable. So you have to have that safety cushion, which is what employment does. But making sure you have 6 to 12 months of monthly expenses is critical, because you don't know what will happen in the first couple of months. Also, beyond your personal expenses, you have to actually look at the business expenses. So you also have to have started to research, what does it take to run my business? And then making sure that you have at least 6 months also of that money to run the business. So it takes time. It takes time.
Wow. Number 4, develop your business plan. This must be, I think, the most difficult for most startup businesses.
Yes. A lot of startup businesses are informal. So a lot of people start up because they're not making enough money at work, so they want extra income, so they do something that will make them money, their side hustle. Or a lot of people start their side hustle because they're not doing what they like professionally, and they went to school, they studied something they didn't like because they were told that's the right thing to do, and they find they have this talent or this passion for something else, so they start this passion, this venture, but they don't have a plan, so they're just making money, and it's there, but it's not professionally. If you want to be successful in business, you do need to have a business plan. It's very critical, because you have to understand your business. The first thing I do with clients when they come and they want to do a business plan is actually make them understand what their business model is. They need to understand what it takes to be successful in that particular industry they're looking at. For us, we use what we call a business model canvas, which deals with 9 different blocks, from your key partnerships to your revenue models, to your cost structure, to your customer segments. all these different things, and your value proposition. Until you understand this business, there is no way you can be successful at it.
And no matter how small your business is?
No matter how small your business is, remember, you're starting, everyone needs to start small and build up. But if you lay a good foundation, which is what I have told everybody, and that's what I did with Regal Africa, you have to build a good foundation. Once you build a good foundation, it's easy to rise up. If you start on a faulty foundation, then you will continue not succeeding.
Falling all the way. All right, number 5, evaluate the feasibility of your chosen business. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. So when most people, again, are doing their side business, they're not really looking at the numbers. They know they're making money, but they don't actually know how much, where they're spending it, because a lot of people, from what I've experienced, a lot of people don't keep track of their finances. Right? So again, when we are doing the business plan and we're actually saying this is what you're going to do in the next couple of years, we have a section about financial forecasting, right? And that becomes the hardest part. So people are able to write very well the marketing strategy they'll have, the brand strategy they'll have, but when it comes to the numbers, it's very, very, very difficult. And that is why I say they need to actually go to a profession, or, you know, to come to a company like Regal Africa, where you're able to look at the feasibility of your business. So with that, you're able to see what have you done previously and how do you be able, what can you do with the funding or the resources that you will get to scale it up. And then with that, you need to then analyze your financial statements. You need to be able to understand what's going on with your income statement, how are you making revenues, how do you improve it, and things like that. So if you don't understand the feasibility of your business, you don't understand the numbers, it's very hard for you to be successful.
All right, number 6. Now formalizing the business, startup business requirements. This is about registration, but for most people who I know, at least who start small businesses, they never think of registration if they can sell, you know, to people in the office, their friends at church or at home. Why is it so important to register?
Exactly that. So when you're doing a side hustle, it's informal, right? But if you wanted to make it a main hustle, then you have to formalize it. You need to make sure that you're presenting yourself in a professional manner. You're actually putting things in place. And the first thing you need to do is register a company. For us at Regal Africa, we recommend people to actually have it as a limited liability company so as to separate from your personal, right? But again, we also understand most people, when they're starting out, they probably don't have the finances for that. So it's okay to start off as a sole proprietor. It's okay if you're a group of people to start off as a partnership. But the ultimate goal is, can we make this a limited liability company? And registration just means that now you're separating personal to business, and you're making sure that it's professionally done and run the business.
All right, number 7, finalize all startup requirements. And I see there, get furniture and equipment, but I know the majority of people who have started a small business almost always do it, you know, from their homes.
Yes. Again, it depends on what kind of business that you're starting. For example, in my case, I started a service business. So for me, when I started off, yes, I started working from home. But it reached a point whereby I needed to scale up, because again, I needed to set roots. I had to make sure that my clients knew where to find me. My clients were able to trust based on the environment that I was. So from there is when I had to transition from the sofa set to actually going to an office. And they're different. It doesn't have to be expensive. As I mentioned, it's good to actually have furniture and equipment, but they're actually serviced offices or virtual offices that startups can actually take advantage of. So starting a business doesn't have to be expensive. You just have to know what you need to do to reduce those costs.
All right, as we wrap up, ready for business, where do you start? How do you launch your business to your public?
Okay, so you already have a side hustle, and now it's about making sure that it's professional. In order for you to do that, you actually have gone through all the steps we've just mentioned, right? And you have to be mentally prepared, financially prepared. Once you've done that and you've actually decided, this is what I want to do, it's no longer going to be a hustle, it's now actually going to be my main business. Now you actually have to start presenting yourself that way to your potential clients, to your vendors, you know, your suppliers, all these people. You actually have to now say, I've registered my company, this is where my company is. And usually I say at least 3 months before you actually give your resignation letter, it is a good idea to actually now start telling people, I'm actually leaving on my career. This business is official. I would like you to be my client, so that by the time they make the decision, by the time you open up your doors, you actually have legitimate clients for you.
All right, wow, thank you so much for quickly taking us through the Hustler's Handbook from side hustle to main business. And I like this pointer you ended with: success formula should be based on plan, manage, analyze, and access to credit alone does not guarantee success. It is what you do with the funding that matters, and actionable business and strategy are key to success. Thank you so much, Wambui Gaitha from Regal Africa Financial Services, for making time to be with us on the Business Center tonight.
Thank you, Terry-Ann.
All right, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll sample some of your views as well as wind up with the business news.